Hi, Sanford Smith here with Penn State Cooperative Extension, and today I'm joined by my colleague
Calvin Norman.
and we're going to talk about wildlife habitat enhancement today. Many times people ask us or say to us, I want to improve my property for wildlife, and there's a lot of things to consider, so let's talk about it. Calvin, what would you say to someone?
Well, Sandy, this is one of the most common questions I get, and it's one of the most common reasons that folks own forests. And the first thing that I ask folks when they tell me they want to manage for wildlife is I say, what wildlife do you want to manage for? The term wildlife means every animal in the forest with a backbone. So every vertebrate is your big science word for the day there. Now, different animals require different habitat. For example, grouse like a young forest or early successional forest, whereas bear is kind of like a mix of forest, especially with some larger old dead trees. So if you're going to manage for grouse, you're going to do something a little bit differently than you would if you would manage for black bears. So that's why we need to define what we're thinking about when we're thinking about wildlife.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sometimes people, I think, haven't even thought about it, which wildlife species they want, or maybe they're thinking of one species, but they neglect to remember they enjoy a lot of different species. So what if you only own a small piece of land and there's a lot of property around you that might be a little different from your property? What do you say then?
Well, being a little different from the property around you is probably the best thing you can do. So what you want to do as a landowner is you want to, before you start managing for wildlife, take a look at the properties around you. You can do that, just walking around, or if you want to get on some kind of map that has a satellite image, that's a great way to do it, and see what's going on there. You might see that you're just a little chunk of forest surrounded by cornfield, in which case you're going to manage a little bit differently than if you were surrounded by, 1,000 acres of state forest. So you want to see what's going on and see how you can enhance the diversity of, plant species and then also structure. So by structure we mean if you got big tall trees, or you got little trees, or maybe you have grassland. So we want to kind of maximize diversity if we're just going for wildlife broadly.
Sometimes people say they need to get a little more water on their property, or maybe food sources on their property. What can a person do about that?
Well, it depends really. I'm going to go back to our species. Not all wildlife need water. A lot of wildlife can get water from the things that they eat. So we got to think about what we're managing for. And again, with the food sources, it really depends. We have what we call hard mast and soft mast. So hard mast is like nuts. Soft mast is berries and stuff. And different species like a different mix of those things. So we got to figure out what we want. One of the best things you can do as a forest owner, though, is to have a good diversity of species and age classes in your forest. So you got some big trees, you got some little trees. You cover the spectrum of food sources.
Okay, sounds a little complicated. Are there some sources of assistance for people so they can get some help?
Oh, it can get very complicated, which is why we have a lot of great sources like you asked about. We have the Pennsylvania Game Commission, who has tons of resources and folks you can help private landowners. The DCNR has service foresters that help private landowners, as well as us here at Cooperative Extension. We have all kinds of knowledge about wildlife and are real happy to help people.
Right, we have knowledge, we've got publications, and we even have programs, webinars, and face-to-face programs. So thanks very much, Calvin. I hope you folks learned a little bit about wildlife habitat enhancement today. Thank you for listening.